Welcome to the first webinar of 2023 CSE Development in Action webinar series. The CSE alumni team are excited to host today's webinar, and the topic is Exploring Impact Through Doctoral Research in conversation with the 2022 CSE Research Impact Award winners. So as the title suggests, today's webinar will be delivered by two of the three winners of the 2020 CSE Research Impact Award, also known as RIA in short. So RIA celebrates the research and publication endeavors of Commonwealth scholars and alumni at the early and mid-career research stages. The annual awards are offered through two streams and promotes the important research undertaken by doctoral Commonwealth scholars and alumni and its value to international development. I would now like to introduce you to the two winners delivering today's webinar today. First, we have Dr. Mirriam Makungwe, the winner of the 2022 CSE Research Output Stream for her article Assessing Land Suitability for Rain-Fed Paddy Rice Production in Zambia. The CSE Research Output Stream seeks to reward research published by current doctoral scholars and alumni up to 5 years post-thesis submission date, and the important real-world relevance of this and its potential impact in addressing global challenges related to the entrance field of study and home country. Dr. Makungwe is a 2019 split-site scholar from Zambia. She's completed her PhD in integrated soil fertility management at the University of Nottingham and the University of Zambia. Joining her today, we have Dr. Olajide Olusola, the winner of the 2022 Taylor and Francis CSE Research Implementation and Uptake Stream for his article investigating the effect of gallium chloride incorporation into the usual cadmium chloride treatment on cadmium telluride based solar cell device structures. The Taylor and Francis CSE Research Implementation and Uptake Stream, sponsored by Taylor and Francis, is open to alumni 6 to 10 years post-thesis submission date. This stream seeks to identify and reward published research which has been implemented to a local, national, or international level, and to understand its impact in addressing global challenges related to the entrance field of study and home country, and the broader research uptake. Dr. Olusola is a 2012 scholar from Nigeria, and he completed his PhD in Environmental and Sustainability Systems at the Sheffield Hallam University. We also have a third winner who will be delivering their webinar on 20th February, and the winner is Dr. David Ikpaya. And he is the winner of the 2022 RIA Topical Prize for his clean energy related research. So do keep your eyes out for the webinar invitation mailing on joining this webinar next month. I would now like to begin with sharing an overview of today's webinar. So today's webinar will include an introduction and overview of the research papers by our two winners. We will then move to exploring the impact of the two research studies, and then we'll also have an opportunity for our attendees to ask questions to Mirriam and Olajide. So without any further ado, I would now like to invite Dr. Olajide and Dr. Mirriam to this webinar, to delivering this webinar, beginning with Dr. Mirriam's presentation. Over to you, Dr. Mirriam.
Thank you, Eva, and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mirriam Makungwe. I'm from Zambia. currently working for International Water Management Institute. And I'm going to talk about the paper that I wrote titled Assessing Land Suitability for Rain-Fed Paddy Rice Production. The internet is so bad here, it's been raining heavily, so I'll request that I put my camera off so that I don't get pushed off due to internet. Next slide. So rice is one of the staple food crops in Zambia. It's one of the profitable cash crops for smallholder farmers, and it has a lot of potential to increase the income for rural smallholder farmers. But one of the challenges, as I was doing my research, as I was studying on rice, that I found was it is the only crop where the domestic production is less than the domestic demand. As you see from the graph there, you see these are a number of different years, starting from 2003 to 2008, where the total production was recorded against the staple food requirement. And in most of the years, we have then a negative balance. And one of the things that can attribute to this is low productivity, which is one of the factors that can challenge the country into achieving food security and improved rural livelihood. In order to solve this problem, there is need to identify land with great potential and also identify the land-based limitations. These are some of the things that you can do to help improve on the productivity. So it is in this regard that this study looked at developing a land suitability index for rain-fed paddy rice production in Zambia. Next slide, please. And from the findings, what you see there is a suitability map of Zambia. And we have the different classes: highly suitable, moderately suitable, marginally suitable, not suitable. And what we find is that if you go to the graph, on the graph, it shows the total area. Out of the total area, we have less than, when we add the highly suitable and the moderately suitable, we have less than 20% of the land classified in those two classes, meaning more than 80% is not suitable or marginally suitable, and interpreting to limited potential for rain-fed paddy rice production in Zambia. Next slide, please. So apart from, after writing this paper, after doing this analysis, I still went ahead and did more research, said, okay, there's this limited potential to rain-fed paddy rice. So how about rain-fed upland rice? How about irrigated paddy and upland rice? So I did do the suitability maps, and what I actually found was that with the rain-fed paddy rice, the rain-fed upland rice, and the irrigated paddy rice, there is actually slightly above 25% potential. But the good news is with the irrigated upland rice, there is a 54% potential. This is published into, this work is into my thesis, and it's online. It can be accessed online, and this has an implication to the Ministry of Agriculture, because the Ministry of Agriculture has the National Rice Development Strategy, which they are managing. And with these results, it's something that the Ministry of Agriculture can use in expanding the production of rice by exploring the irrigation of upland rice production in Zambia. And this is, on a synopsis, this is what my study is about. Thank you, Eva.
Thank you so much, Dr. Makungwe, for your presentation. I would now like to invite Dr. Olajide Olusola to present his winning research article.
Thank you, Eva. Good day to everyone. My name is Olajide Olusola. I'm a researcher at the Federal University of Technology, Akure, based in Nigeria. And my research work, to which I won this article, is based on investigating the effect of gallium chloride incorporation into the usual cadmium chloride treatment on cadmium telluride-based solar cell device structures. Now, the major challenge that I encountered while working on this particular research is on how to increase the efficiency of the cadmium telluride-based solar cell. And that was one of the things that actually led to the motivation of this research. So the research motivation is actually to enhance the efficiency of the cadmium telluride-based solar cells using multi-junction graded bandgap solar structures and appropriate chemicals for surface treatment. The multi-junctions device structures actually allow photons to be absorbed from different regions of the solar spectrum, from the UV to the visible and the infrared region. And the surface treatment allows the passivation of the defects at the surface so that the efficiency of the material can actually be improved. Next slide, please. Yeah, the question is, what is a solar cell? Actually, I believe everybody around us knows what solar cells are and the advantages of using solar cells in our day-to-day activities. Well, solar cell is an electronic device that actually converts energy of sunlight into a direct current electricity by the photovoltaic effect. And these solar cells, basically, they are made up of, semiconductors and metal contacts. So when you see a solar panel on the roof, or anywhere it is being mounted, there are certain materials that are actually doing the electrical current generation within the solar panels. And these materials are basically the semiconductors and the metal contacts. So my research focus is on growing and developing these semiconductors for utilization in solar cell fabrication. And there are various methods through which these materials are being grown. We have the molecular beam epitaxy, we have the sputtering method, and so on and so forth. But in my own research and based on the technique we use in our research group at Sheffield Hallam University, United Kingdom, under the supervisory leadership of Professor I.M. Damadaza, we use electrodeposition technique. And, as you can see in the diagram there, that is the simple, setup for the electrodeposition technique. It contains, a bath wherein we have the electrolytes that contain the different ions that you want to deposit. And it contains some, some electrodes. We have the reference electrodes, the working electrodes, the counter electrodes, and we also have the equipment, which is a potential start through which, these materials are being grown. Next slide, please. Yeah, this electrodeposition technique has a lot of advantages. And one of the advantages is that it is scalable, it is also manufacturable. And this was proven by BP Solar, when they first of all manufactured, cadmium telluride-based solar panels, using electrodeposition technique. As you can see that image, that is the image of my supervisor. That was Professor I.M. Damadaza when he was still working with BP Solar. But recently, the first solar company has actually proven that this cadmium telluride-based solar cells, can have improved efficiency. And recently, from the report by Martins et al., they've been able to report approximately 21% efficiency. And this particular material called solar cell is an electronic device that actually absorbs photons from the solar spectrum. And this material, the kind of energy that solar cells produce is a direct current electricity. But before solar cells can be actually fabricated, we need to study the materials. And before the materials can be studied, we need to grow the materials using the technique we use in the lab. We need to characterize the materials and optimize it for proper and for optimum efficiency. After the materials have been grown, the next stage is to actually design an electronic device called solar cell. We need to assess it using the current voltage measurement system and and other means to actually increase the conversion efficiency. Next slide, please. Now, the main steps of device fabrication, as you can see in that diagram, a solar cell consists of a minimum of 2 materials. We have a P material, we have an N material, but in my research work, we have been able to discover that solar cell doesn't have to just be a PN junction. We can have an NN junction plus Schottky barrier material. So we can have an NN plus Schottky barrier junction, even in solar cells fabrication. As you can see, we have the glass, the FTO. We make use of the conducting substrate because we are using electrode deposition, to which we have to apply electric field. And for that reason, we need to pass electric current. So we need a conducting surface. That is the reason why we use a conducting substrate. So the first layer is always a window layer, which is always of very high energy band gap. So, and the other layer, which is the absorber layer, that layer, is a low energy band gap. So these 2 layers are combined together, and the surfaces are treated using the appropriate chemicals. And at the end of this fabrication, we do normally fabricate a kind of metal contacts to act as a back contact, to which all this current generated can actually be collected. As you can see in that table, that was what I actually, that was the result I obtained when I was doing my PhD. The usual treatment they normally use for solar cells, in the literature, is basically cadmium chloride. But in my own case, I applied gallium chloride because there was a research, that my supervisor then brought into the weekly meeting, and he discussed with us, the importance of gallium. So I happened, to actually put this into practice, and I got interesting results. So I was able to get improved efficiency when I made use of the combination of these 2 chemicals, gallium chloride and cadmium chloride, to treat the surface of the solar cell for defect passivation. Next slide, please. Now, what are the benefits of harvesting energy from the sun? Harvesting energy from the sun can actually save our planet and secure the future from us. And it's a green technology, that does not encourage environmental pollution. So in that case, we are being rescued from some of the present global challenges. So from this work here, so I've been able to develop the materials for solar cell applications, and presently I'm working on some new materials for solar cell applications in our research group here in Futa in Nigeria, and we are continually training researchers on the technology involved in thin films and solar cell fabrication, and we are also continuing the solar village application project that was designed and piloted by Professor I.M. Damadaza, my previous supervisor at Sheffield Hallam, UK, and this project, which is the solar village project, aims to bridge the gap between the laboratory and the society. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Dr. Olusola, for your wonderful presentation on your winning piece of work. We now will move on to the next piece of this webinar, which is asking a few questions to Dr. Mirriam Makungwe and Dr. Olajide Olusola. So Dr. Mirriam, as a research output stream winner, the first question goes to you. The question is, following the publication of your research, in what ways has this led or will this lead to change in your country and or within relevant organizations? I hope I was audible. If not, I can repeat the question.
Yes, you were.
Great.
Following my publication, the results, like I mentioned in my presentation, the maps produced from this study can provide guidance to selecting suitable sites for rice production across the country. So this provides information to the stakeholders and the value chain players such as the farmers, the Ministry of Agriculture, the extension service providers, the policymakers. It gives them information on where rice can be produced, where it is suitable. If it is not suitable, are there limitations, and what are the limitations that are there, and how do they put in place more specific interventions for rice in order to improve the yield. And some of the, for example, I'll give you an example. FAO published a document on irrigation in Zambia, and this study is one of the documents that they cited. So yes, I think that's how it will lead to change.
Thank you so much for your response to the first question. Moving on to the next question. In what ways are or have you or will you ensure your research is further disseminated? Hello, Dr. Mirriam. Did you hear me? Can you hear me?
Oh, sorry, I didn't unmute.
Sorry, yeah.
Okay.
Go for it.
So, so what I've done is some of the maps that were produced from this study, I actually use them to apply for funding, and I'm doing furthermore studies to do more research, and that is under the Imana Fellowship. Also, I have shared the paper with some of the key players in the country, like from the Ministry of Agriculture. Like I mentioned already, it's been used. The results of this study have been used to advise, just as the FAO have used it to include it in their information document. So that is that.
That's amazing, and I think it just goes on to say how the impact that your research is having is not just the research study and the completion of it, but also following that, how it can be used later on as well for impact. We now move on to questions for Dr. Olusola. Dr. Olusola, your question is, how did you go about implementing your research to contribute to real change?
Well, thank you, Eva, and thanks to everyone that is listening. Well, the research titled Investigating the Effect of Gallium Chloride Incorporation to the Usual Carbon Chloride Treatment on Carbon Chloride-based Solar Cell Device Structures was actually done when I was doing my PhD research work at Sheffield Hallam University, United Kingdom. And when you look at this research, it involved the growth of some compound semiconductors, basically from group 2 and 6 of the periodic tables. Some of these materials, as you know, that I made use of were zinc sulfide, cadmium sulfide, and cadmium telluride. So they were all suitable solar cell materials. They were, they can find application in clean, renewable energy system. And these materials were developed using a low-cost electrodeposition technique. And for efficiency improvement, what I did was to treat the surface of the material using 2 different chemical combinations. And with those chemical combinations, I was able to obtain excellent results, as I earlier discussed. And that was how that was what actually happened when I was doing my PhD. Presently in my local institution here in Futa in Nigeria, there is also a further research uptake, because the knowledge I gained when I was doing my PhD in UK, I've been able to set up a solar energy electrodeposition laboratory in my institution here, and some of these materials too have been reproduced again and even after setting up the equipment here. So we have been able to actually fabricate new materials apart from the ones that were done when I was doing my PhD in UK. And not only that, we have been able to, one of the changes that we have here is that we have been able to train quite a lot of scholars who have even, some of them have even given, grants. They have been given grants to study for, masters and PhD even outside Nigeria, based on the knowledge that they acquired when they were being tutored here, by us here. And these students have actually been able, to also make impacts in their present fields of study too. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Olusola. You have already answered a bit in your first question, but again, if you would like to add some more, in what ways have you seen further uptake and how have you been part of this?
Well, thank you. The research work, like I said before, we have been able to come up with new materials. And some of the materials that we are working on presently are, aluminum gallium selenide. It's a potential material that can find applications also in solar cells fabrication. And there are other materials too that we have been able to work on, like molybdenum sulfide, molybdenum telluride. All these things are compound semiconductor materials. And the way I've been part of this is I've been able to actually coordinate the group, with the help of my senior colleague, important Professor S.S. Oluyamo. So we have been able to coordinate the group and we have been able to teach the scholars, both undergraduates and postgraduate levels, and we have been able to impart knowledge to them. And these students now, they have the confidence to actually do these things on their own, even without us being there. And that is our joy. That's our joy when we see our students progressing. So we are actually delighted to see these students progressing and to see some of them to teaching others, imparting others with the knowledge that they have gained in the field. Thank you.
Thank you, Olajide. You do have quite a few interesting questions coming up in the chat box. When you have a chance, do have a look at them, and we will raise these questions in the Q&A session as well. So moving on to the next question, and this question is for Dr. Mirriam as well as to Dr. Olajide. And I would like to begin with asking this question to Dr. Mirriam. And the question is, in what ways did your Commonwealth scholarship contribute towards the research undertaken?
Thank you, Eva. I'll answer this question with a story. Before I joined before I started the Commonwealth Scholarship, I submitted a paper to one of the journals. It wasn't a high-profile journal, and it was a desk rejection, and they said, your writing skills are not good. And once you've improved on your writing skills, please submit this paper to a different journal. So what I did is, when I had an opportunity to join the Commonwealth Scholarship, when I was at University of Nottingham, I said to myself, I'm going to improve on my writing skills. And when I was at University of Nottingham, I made sure I attended every writing course that was there, and with the mentorship and everything, my writing skills improved so great, such that the first paper I wrote after that, it was published in Geodema. And anyone in soil science knows Geodema is one of the super journals of soil science. And this one I wrote, it got published in Geodema Regional. And thanks to the Commonwealth Scholarship for giving me that opportunity to improve on one of the skills that I was really lagging behind. And apart from that, with the Commonwealth Scholarship, I had an opportunity to work with other researchers, work with other experts, and improve on my technical skills, my geospatial modeling skills. And I wouldn't have been here, I wouldn't have been at this level of research if it wasn't for the Commonwealth Scholarship. Thanks.
Thank you so much for sharing your experience with us. Dr. Olajide, this question is for you now. In what ways did your Commonwealth Scholarship contribute towards the research that you undertook?
Well, thank you for the question. Is that without the financial support from Commonwealth Scholarship Commission and my UK-based institution, Shepherd University, this research that I undertook in UK wouldn't have been possible. My host institution actually provided an enabling environment for the actualization of the research. For instance, in our research, we made use of a lot of laboratory consumables like chemicals and a lot of glasswares and a lot of other things that we use in the laboratory too. So all these laboratory consumables were provided by the host institution for the actualization of this research. And not only that, we were exposed to quite a lot of trainings, like some of the modern equipment in the institution were taught on how to actually handle some of this equipment on our own, so that once we have a material we want to actually study, investigate their properties, we can always go there on our own after receiving the training to actually carry out the characterizations on all these materials. And apart from that too, a lot of seminars were also held when I was doing my PhD. For instance, seminars were held on how we can write, maybe for journal publications. Seminars were held for us on on health and safety, because our work requires quite a lot of things on health and safety. So all these seminars were held for us, and it actually improved my ability to actually work in the lab, to always safeguard anytime I'm in the lab. At the same time, we're trained on my writing skills also improved when I was doing my PhD. So, and and by God's grace, I was able to produce at least 7. I had about 7 journal publications before I finished my PhD in UK. So the research actually improved my writing skills. So I'm grateful to Commonwealth Scholarship Commission for the privilege, for the trainings they gave me, in undertaking this research. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Olajide. I hope the scholars and alumni joining us today have found this information useful. Do send in your questions in the chat box. Dr. Olajide and Dr. Mirriam, I'm sure you have questions for each other's research articles, winning research articles. So now is your time to just ask any questions you might have about each other's research articles, and then we will move on to a Q&A session where the attendees will have the opportunity to ask you questions around your research conducted, the winning research that you've conducted. So I will mute myself now, and this is your time for another 10 minutes or so for any queries that you might have.
Thank you, Eva.
Thank you, Eva.
Yeah. Hello, Mirriam.
Hi, Olajide.
Yeah, I hope you are good today.
Yeah, I'm good. Nice work there.
Yeah, thank you. Nice chatting with you. Now, my first question is this. You did a research on assessing land suitability for rain-fed paddy rice production in Zambia. So I would like to ask, what are your motivations for carrying out this research? What actually motivated you to embark on this kind of research?
Okay. What motivated me is I come from in Zambia. I come from the western part of Zambia, and we have it's the rice. That's where rice is produced. Most of the rice is produced, and it's because we have these big floodplains, and we have a lot of paddy rice being produced there. So from prior to my PhD, I had an opportunity to work with different organizations under different projects, working with smallholder farmers. And one of the projects, we were looking at rice. So we went into deep in the rural area in northern province, and we found these farmers growing upland rice. So it was interesting to see rice being grown rain-fed without flooding. And I was interested. So like, my people there are struggling with producing rice only under flooded conditions. So what is this about? That's how I gained my interest to look at it. And when I started my research, I actually discovered all those problems about rice, how it's the only crop with whose production is lower than the demand. And that's what motivated me to look at rice.
Wow, that's beautiful. That's a great work. Well done.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Maybe I can ask you, so like right now in Zambia, we have a lot of challenges with electricity, and a lot of people are migrating to buy solar panels and all those things that will help them have electricity when they have power cuts. So does this new innovation of yours translate into, if it was to go into production, will it translate into cheaper solar panels?
Yes, thank you, Eva, for the question.
Mirriam.
Yes, thank you for the question. Yeah, like the question you asked, Mirriam, maybe it will translate to lower cost when it goes into actual production, mass production of solar panels. Like the essence of this research was actually to improve the solar cell efficiency, and improvement in efficiency will lead to a reduction in the number of solar panels that are being mounted on the rooftop. For instance, if I have a solar panel of about 5% efficiency, so I may need up to about 20 of those solar panels to actually, have higher efficiency. But if I have a solar panel with an improved efficiency, like about, let's say 20% efficiency, so if I add that kind of solar panel, it will reduce the number of solar panels that will be purchased, for installation. So in that case, it's going to reduce the overall cost of the solar panels that will be used. So that's one of the reasons. That's one of the essences of working on this particular area. If I'm able to improve the solar cell efficiency, definitely in the long run, it's going to lead to a reduction in the total number of solar panels that will be used for current generation. Thank you.
Okay, that's great work. Do you have any questions for me?
Yes, I have another question. Like, you did quite a lot of interesting work on this rice production. Now, what are your major approaches to research? How did you approach this research work?
With this study, this is like one of the first things that I looked at when I started my PhD. And I was looking at, okay, I'm going to map the suitability for the entire country. And yeah, collecting samples for the entire country could be quite expensive. And I said, okay, I don't have enough money to collect samples for all these factors that I need to put into consideration. Then I had to go into the archives. What is the data available? So I was lucky enough, I managed to have, with collaboration with partners, collaboration with the internet, the IASA, I was able to get data that was already available, survey data. I had maps from USRIC, and those are the ones I used. I had drainage, annual rainfall, slope, coast fragments, soil pH, cation exchange capacity, soil organic carbon, and all these factors. I had to consider their joint effects on the suitability on their suitability for rice production.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's quite beautiful. Thank you for that. Do you have any question for me?
I don't have any more questions for you.
All right. Well, like, let me just put in this one there. Like, one of the approaches I made to research, like my PhD supervisor in person of Professor Damadaza, we always say, anytime we are together, we tell us stand on the shoulder of the giants. That means we must learn from researchers who have contributed immensely to research outputs. So what that means is that we must find out the research gaps and ensure to fill it off by undertaking research works that will give solutions to some unanswered research questions. So, and at the same time, there should always be adequate interfacing between the research works carried out in the laboratory and the industry. So one approach that I would love to bring in is there should be a kind of collaboration between the tertiary institutions and the industry. So if there's a good and a proper interfacing between the university and the industry, I think it goes a long way, and it will actually help even the academia to actually improve more. Thank you.
Yeah, I think you are very right. You're very right on that one. It's about the networks. It's about the relationship between the universities and all those things. An example I'll give you is like with me, my relationship with University of Nottingham did not end from my Commonwealth scholarship. We've still continued to work. My postdoc, I'm working with them, and I've also have had a lot of support continuing from them. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Eva, I think we'll hand over back to you.
Thank you so much. I think I found it really insightful to hear your conversation with each other, and I'm sure our attendees have also found it useful. If the attendees would like to know about the next Research Impact Awards and when we open, I'll just get my mic closer just in case. So in terms of the next awards, these will open in June 2023 to all current doctoral scholars and alumni with up to 10 years of post-thesis submission. So do keep your eye out on the information mailing that you will receive regarding when applications open to apply for this award. And all those who are eligible to apply will receive an email notification somewhere around May or June. So yeah, do keep your eyes open for it. Moving on, we now open the Q&A session. And I would like to thank all the Commonwealth scholars and alumni who have sent in your questions in advance in the registration forms. I will raise a few of them in this Q&A session, but I would also look at the questions that we have received in the chat box. Please feel free to send in your questions in the chat box, and I will raise them for you to Dr. Olajide and Dr. Makungwe as well. All right, so if you are ready, I would like to begin with the first question, and any one of you can respond to the question, or perhaps if both of you would like to share your inputs to it. So my first question is, to what extent does the impact of research findings can be implemented through policy making, or while keeping practicality in view? What are your thoughts on it? Who would like to go? Would Dr. Mirriam like to provide a response to this question?
Just repeat the question for me, please.
Yes. So to what extent does the impact of your research findings can be implemented through policy making?
Mainly it helps it's about providing information to the policymakers, and so that as they are making decisions, they are making an informed decision. So if an example I'll give you, if they are going to talk about agriculture productivity in Zambia, and my research provides information to the government about what limitations are there, and it's the policymakers who will to put in place more specific interventions. As they put in place specific interventions, they are doing that with an informed information. Yes.
Thank you for your response, Dr. Mirriam. We have a question for Dr. Olajide as well.
Yeah.
What were your biggest challenges while you were conducting your research?
Well, thank you, Eva. Well, before I just go into that question, let me just add a little bit of information to what Dr. Mirriam earlier said on about to what extent of the impact of the research findings can be implemented to policy making. Well, one of the, the extent to which these research findings can be implemented also depends on the policy made either at the state level or the national level in one's country. And at every level, there should be policies that favors the translation of the researches being conducted in the laboratories to a product that the society can actually use. Now, and that means that our government at all levels, both at the state and the national level, should put in place laws or policies that will favor the researches that are being conducted at the tertiary institutions and the industries. Now, if a research is being done and it is not being used, it's just like throwing a research over the fence. For example, I did a lot of research works and, I spent a lot of money. Eventually, I made some outstanding results and it is not being used. So it's like throwing the research over the fence. So the researchers need to ensure, just like Dr. Mirriam said, to ensure that both the policymakers in the government and the researchers themselves are well carried along in their research journey to allow proper alignment from the stakeholders. Thank you. Now, with regards to the question about the biggest challenges, now one of the biggest challenges I encountered while doing my research has to deal with, some of the reported works in the literatures, were not explicitly stated. The procedures that, that were used to carry out some of the experiments were not detailed enough. I found out that, when a researcher does a research and he or
thank you
she,
so much. I'm super grateful. Thank you. I'm grateful.
And he or she has a major breakthrough in that particular research. Now, you see, the detailed work, some of the works will be reported maybe by the journal publication, but I noticed that not all the various steps taken to actually implement the research are always reported. And this is a challenge for us all. By the time we are doing our research, because by the time that will make us to read virtually a lot of literatures, search for a lot of literatures before we can actually get what are the parameters to use in producing a material of high quality. And you see, I remember when I was doing my PhD in UK, I worked on a material called cadmium selenide. I read the literature. They said the color of the material is dark. I read another one, they said the color is red. I read another one, they said the color is dark red. So I begin to wonder, so what, this material, does it have different colors? So which one will I actually accept? Is it dark? Is it red or dark red? So what I did was, I now decided to look at the various literatures. I now found out that they use different pH. The electrolyte they use, the bath they use they use different pH. So I now did a research to bring together all this, what all these researchers actually did. So I now, on a single go, I now made a single bath, and I made different baths, and I varied their pH using the same salt composition but different pH. And I found out that all the researchers are actually correct. For some materials, based on the pH, I got red color, some dark color, some dark red. So so the challenge basically is getting all these procedures in the literature. Some of them are actually omitted. They are not actually given in the literature black and white. So it actually gives us a lot of stress by the time we are doing research works. So it makes this work to actually not being able to be repeated over and over again. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Olusola. I'd like to ask the next question to Dr. Mirriam, and the question is, I hope I'm audible. The question is, how is your research exploring new ways of promoting environmentally friendly agricultural technologies that mitigate climate change impacts? And how are the compliance levels from farmers in Zambia?
My research is my research from the results we have, there's a recommendation for irrigation. So as we all know, we have the impact of climate change is affecting smallholder farmers a lot, and it will continue affecting the agriculture productivity. But with irrigation, it will help improve the productivity. And irrigation is one of the methods that is environmentally friendly. And when we promote irrigation, we can also promote the use of solar powered irrigation. And instead of promoting the fuel, petrol, diesel powered generators and all those things, because we know most of the farmers that we are targeting are rural farmers, and there is no electricity, so they depend on the fuel as a source of energy or solar, and we'll encourage them to use solar instead.
Thank you so much. And just a follow-up question, which I've just noticed in the chat box is, do you think you can replicate your research in another country, such as Malawi? The alumnus asking this question, or rather making this, who shared this thought, has said that they have found this very insightful, and there's a lot that can change or be used to change policies. So what are your thoughts in replicating your research in another Commonwealth country?
Yes, it's something that can be done, and most of the sources of data that I was using, it's they have data for Africa, for the whole Africa, so we can look at Malawi. And if you are interested in doing that with me, just you can get in touch with me via email, and then we can do the same thing for Malawi.
Definitely. And I will be sharing Dr. Olusola's and Dr. Makungwe's email address in the chat box later on. Yes, if you please feel free to get in touch and connect and network with our two webinar speakers, and they'd be more than happy to, connect with you, discuss their research papers in detail, and also if you would like any motivation or any further information on tips or how to conduct your research, please do feel free to get in touch with them. Okay, so the next question is for Dr. Olusola, and the question is, are there any means to build solar panel which are less expensive so that the majority can afford it?
Yes, thank you, Eva. Well, yes, there are means to actually fabricate solar panels that are less expensive. And that is what our research is basically on. We are actually working on new materials. Though, like I could see the question in the chat, somebody was asking about, it's a similar question to the one you asked now. Somebody is asking a question on regarding the solar cell fabrication from new semiconductors, that what will be the potential cell efficiency compared to silicon cell. Well, that's a very good question, and it's very similar to the one you actually asked. Now, you see, our materials are new, and in some of the materials, that is, the major material is carbon telluride, which has actually been in existence for some time now. And, but what we are doing is we are looking for means to actually further improve the efficiency of this solar cell, of this carbon telluride-based material. And presently now, we are also working on some new materials, which are actually gaining grants, and it has quite a lot of potential optoelectronic applications. We have tested it in our lab, and it actually worked very fine. So these materials, they are low cost actually. But the question is, the reason is, for now, because it's still under investigation, it cannot still now, it cannot still, get up to the efficiency of the silicon cell, because silicon is a well-established material. And the methods are actually, they are complex methods, and actually silicons, the technology is actually advanced. So we cannot compare the efficiency of our material now with silicon, but I believe one day we'll get there. So it's a research in progress. So, but the good news is that we have other material that can function like silicon, and that is the beauty of the research that we are actually conducting.
Thank you so much for your response. And I would now like to ask a question to Dr. Makungwe. Um, so the question is, the well-known geographical locations for rice growing in western province of Zambia are Namushakende. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. Are there any other regions that are earmarked for rice growing in western province and the rest of Zambia? And which rice varieties are suitable for these different regions or areas?
Thank you, Eva, for that question. The Western Province, that's my home province. That's where I come from. And yes, I know about Namshakandi. From my study, from my findings, is that the potential for rain-fed paddy rice is limited. So we only have areas like Namushakandi, areas like Chama, where it gets flooded. Which are modern rice that is being promoted in Zambia, that we have in Zambia is Nerika 4. And this is one, it has got, there are more areas suitable. If you want to see the actual areas, I would advise that you go to my thesis. It is online. If you just go to Google Scholar, or you just put in my two names, Mirriam, Makungwe, you have the dissertation is there. You can have a look at it, and there are maps there showing exactly where in Zambia it is suitable for irrigated upland rice. Thank you.
Thank you. I hope you found this response useful. I'd like to raise a last question just because I'm concerned we're running out of time, but I feel like this question is very relatable to our scholars and alumni, and I'm sure they'll find the response useful to them, especially those who are interested in conducting research. And I'd like to ask this question to both our speakers. First of all, thank you for your presentations. And the attendee asking this question has said your papers are technical, so they would like to know how you both have interfaced with the different users, implementers, and the government officials. Did you do this while studying or at the completion of your study? How would you advise scholars to build networks for facilitating the implementation and impact of your studies? There are a lot of questions clubbed together, but I hope you can respond to this. Who would like to go first?
Well, thank you, Mirriam, and thanks to the person that asked this question. Now, he said once he would like to know how we both interface with the different users, implementers, and government officials. And actually, the interface was done, at the completion of this program, of the PhD program. Like personally, while I was doing my PhD work, I was also interfacing with some government officials. But basically, most of these things were done after the completion of this work. And I would like to advise our scholars, to actually build a proper network for collaboration. The fact that you are working in material science doesn't mean that you cannot interface with somebody that is working in radiation and earth science. There is an interface, because even in material science, there are some materials that we use for solar cell fabrication that are also used in radiation and earth science for radiation detectors. So there can be proper interfacing between them. And you see, and another thing is, if we are able to read the literature, maybe somebody's earth work, yeah, we can send a mail to that person to actually appreciate the work that they have done and to ask questions and to see how we can actually collaborate, with that person. It actually happened to me sometimes ago, not quite long now. Somebody read my work and had to mail me that, okay, I love your work. How can we actually collaborate and work together? So by so doing, I think, it's one of the ways by which you can actually facilitate this network connection between researchers and to have a positive impact on our studies. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Olusola. Dr. Makungwe, would you like to add any further thoughts to what Dr. Olusola has already mentioned?
Sorry, I had to unmute. Just to add on to what has been said. With me, most of the interactions with the government officials was mainly after the study was done. And before the study, it was just telling them what I'm about to do and looking for data. Like I mentioned, I was looking for data to use that was already available, and they were interested. And after that, they came back to me. I remember I met one of the members in the Ministry of Agriculture, like, you were working on something. Where is the result? I had to send him the paper. And sometimes I've had to explain to reduce the technical language from the paper, from the research, to the level of the people I'm talking to. And on the question, how would a scholar build networks for facilitating the implementation and impacts of their studies? It's all about being active. If you need to build the networks, it's about being active, get involved. An example I'll give you, with me, because of the work that I had done, because I had done on this study, I applied for a One Planet fellowship, which is under award. And it's from there I've had a lot of training on leadership, networking, and I've been assigning myself roles to different groups. I belong to a number of group of researchers, international and locally. And also, if you are a scholar, if you've been assigned to a certain institution, your network does not end when the PhD ends or when the scholarship ends. No, keep being in touch, keep talking. It helps to improve on the networks. So that's what I would add.
Amazing. Thank you so much for the wonderful information that you both have provided to the questions that we have received today. Unfortunately, we will now have to end the webinar. But as I mentioned, Dr. Olajide, Olusola, and Mirriam Makungwe will be more than happy to connect with you if you have any further questions on their winning research articles, or just around how to conduct research. Please do feel free to get in touch with them on LinkedIn or on via email as well. I'm just going to include their email addresses in the chat box now, so please feel free to save it. But you can also see it here on the screen. So yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Olajide and Dr. Mirriam, for sharing information on your winning research articles. And once again, congratulations on winning the 2022 RIA Award. We also have Dr. Ikpaya. I've seen Dr. Ikpaya in attending this webinar as well. So I would like to remind you that we have Dr. Ikpaya, who will be delivering the next webinar, who is the one of the 3 winners of 2022 Research Impact Awards. And he will be delivering the webinar on 20th February. So I hope you can all join that session as well. Dr. Olajide, Dr. Mirriam, would you like to say any final words before we end this webinar?
Yes, okay. Let me allow Mirriam to speak first.
Ladies first.
Ladies first, yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Eva. My last advice would be to the Commonwealth scholars, please do not be discouraged to apply for the award. An experience I'll give you is the first paper I submitted. It didn't go through, and I was so discouraged. Even when I was applying for this one, I was like, how can I do it? It might not win. And I actually submitted it on the last day on the due date. But to my surprise, it did go through. So please don't be discouraged. Push in those papers for the competition. It's something that can happen. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Eva, and thank you, Mirriam. Well, I will first and foremost, I would like to thank the Commonwealth Scholarship Commission, Taylor and Francis, for the award, given to me as the winner of the 22 Taylor and Francis implementation and uptake stream. I really appreciate you. Thank you so much for that. And I would like to advise our current scholars, that they should be magnanimous enough to give back to the society that has actually helped them. And at the same time, they should be prompt in carrying out research assignments. I remember vividly, this article that to which I won this award, we were having a weekly meeting, and my supervisor came to the meeting with a paper by Fernandez. Paper talks about how gallium can be used to remove some defects in a cadmium telluride crystal. And he advised us that we should go ahead and try it on our thin film cadmium telluride materials. So I went ahead, I tried it, and it actually brought out beautiful, excellent, and wonderful results. So I want to advise our scholars, they should be prompt in carrying out assignments that are being given to them by their supervisors. They should be hardworking, they should be diligent, and they should be magnanimous again, to the society that actually helped them. Thank you so much.